Show. I'm Ron Furman, and it's so nice to have you guys here with us on this beautiful Sunday night. It is 9 p.m. and we have a new show. So we're going now. We have three cameras. We have camera 3, camera 2, camera 1. I think it's looking a little bit better. And we have a beautiful guest. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
On our show today we have Michele and Lopaschuk. Is that how you say it? And it's a Ukrainian last name.
Correct.
Beautiful. It's so nice to have you on the show. This is our practice show. We've never had a 3-point camera before, so I'm a little bit excited. Are you able to put on the screen so we can see what we're doing, Anthony?
I have to share it, right?
You have to share it. Okay, so Anthony has to go through his process.
Not a problem.
So first off, it is a happy day for Toronto. The Raptors won yesterday. The city went nuts. 0 arrests. I mean, that says something about the city of Toronto. The one thing for everybody to know, we are now, we're having sponsors, so we want to thank our sponsor, E&S Plumbing. Thank you very much for sponsoring our show. Eric Gelman, who happens to be one of our biggest fans, you know, who tunes in every week, and one of the biggest Raptor fans, if not the biggest that I know. Eric, this one's for you, and really appreciate the fact that you're helping us with the show. So if anyone's looking to sponsor, please talk to us after the show. This is an amazing opportunity, and this is Mental Health Month. So we're just about to end off. We've had a few interesting guests that brought their perspective on mental health, but I sort of wanted to finish off with you today. And Michele, you've written a book called Fuck Fear. I usually don't curse, but that's the name of the book, so there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to say F***CK Fear. And it's a book that was written by yourself and I believe 15 other
14 other women, yes.
Co-workers.
Yes.
So would you please tell us a little bit about the show, about the book, and maybe a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so the book, it's my chapters in the book, and it's my life story.
Okay.
And it starts from when I was small to right up to about 2 years ago. My whole entire life, what's happened to me and how I've progressed to today. And everyone else, they have their own story in the book as well. So.
What made you want to write a book, especially something that says F Fear?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book. It's been on the radar, and I was actually told to write a book like many moons ago from a counselor because of my story. And when the opportunity came around, I saw the name on Facebook, and I went, oh, that's me. That's my life. That's who I am. And I contacted them and made arrangements and started writing.
Tell me a little bit about your story. Like, why do you feel that your story is relevant? And I know I'm asking in kind of like a weird way because I believe everyone's story is relevant. But what made you want to step out of your shell to be able to go out and expose yourself for the world to read about your personal experience?
Well, to help others get through different challenges in their life. And one of them is mental health. And I didn't realize that until I wrote the book, that it was all about mental health, what I was going through in my life. And yeah, so that's why I did that.
Well, we spoke a little bit before, you know, I try to get to know most of our guests, and something I learned about you is, number one, you're adopted.
Yes.
So I'm sure that being adopted, you know, there's something psychological that could happen to a person, right?
Yes.
They feel maybe they weren't wanted by their original parents. Lucky for you, you mentioned that your Ukrainian family, you were Ukrainian, and your Ukrainian family ended up adopting you, which is kind of unique and interesting. But maybe talk to me a little bit about how you came about, meaning how you grew up. Where did you experience those mental health issues? When did you first realize that you're going through something? So just tell the audience a little bit about your story.
So when I was about 5 or 6, my parents told me that I was adopted. Well, told us, because there's another sister that's adopted. She's younger. So this was before school, and because we lived in a small town, they believed it was the right thing to do. And when they told me that I was adopted, I was like, who the fuck are you? What am I doing here? Why did my mother leave me? I felt like so, like torn, something ripped right out of me.
At what age did you find that out?
About 5.
5?
Yeah,
okay.
5.
Do you believe that it was a good thing to tell you at age 5 when you're not developed yet or understanding?
At that time, no, because there wasn't big support. There wasn't, everything was kept silent in the house. You couldn't say anything, so there was no counselors to go to. It wasn't allowed.
Okay.
There were probably counselors at the time, but you didn't go to counseling, you dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up, my parents couldn't have children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different, it's not the same as having your own child. They loved us, they did the best that they could.
Mm-hmm.
I do realize that. Bullied from childhood. My sister bullied
By
me.
your sister, okay.
Yeah, she bullied me, picked on me, called me names, so I grew with that. And then in school,
Mm-hmm.
and then as I got older, as a teenager, things started to happen. My mother would say, "You're no good for nothing. You're gonna go back to where you came from." So I was about 12, 13. I was going through this. And I was like, "Well, I don't want to be here."
So your adopted parents were basically using a tactic to be able to tell you like to behave better. Otherwise, nobody's going to want you, so you should behave because like we did you a favor.
That's right.
So you grew up probably all your life thinking like I'm good for nothing.
That's right. That's how I grew up. I'm no good for nothing. No one wants me. No one loves me, and that's how I grew up. And my father was verbally abusive, a little bit, spanking and that, but he drank alcohol. So I grew up with that as well. So that transpired. I wanted to leave home, so I hooked up with someone. I got married very young. I was 16 when I got married.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. 9 months later, had a baby. So now I'm young. I have a baby. I don't know, and my husband's verbally abusing me, physically abusing me. So now I'm taking more abuse.
Right.
And
But in some ways it didn't look like a problem for you because you were used to it. So
That's
it just
right.
seemed like
it's normal.
this is my life, right?
This is my life. And I would tell so I had my oldest, and then I had 3 years later another child.
Mhm.
And my ex-husband, at that time we split. He moved to Ontario because I was in Alberta.
Mhm.
So I couldn't move because I had to have the baby.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to come here. I didn't want to come. And my mom says, "You're married. You have to go with your husband regardless of what he's doing to you. You're married and
Right.
you have to do it."
Right.
I'm like, "Oh God." So I had the baby, moved over here. It maybe lasted maybe a year, maybe, I don't even know. I got involved with someone else. It was even worse. So I had a child with him, and it just progressed. I had a child with him, another child 2 years later, another one like 2 years after that, and I was being abused in every which way possible that you could ever think of by this person.
While you were going through it, did you realize that you're being abused? Did you realize that, I mean, I'm sure you knew that things were rotten and they weren't working out the way you'd expected to. But in some ways, like some people say, you know what, this is just how that person is. And I just have to accept them.
I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally scared for my life that what this person had put me through, the threats, the mental abuse, the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I was nothing. Like I had no self-esteem, no nothing. I eventually lost my children. I had to figure things out.
At what point did you realize that a change needed to happen? I mean, here you were, you already realized that after having one child with this person who was abusive, and you stayed. Then you had a second child,
Yeah.
and then you were in another abusive relationship. So at what point did you realize, oh my God, I can't continue like this?
Well, when I had the last one, again, I didn't want to do it anymore. I had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine, I met a lady, and she said to me, "You're a beautiful woman. Why are you putting up with this? You deserve a lot better."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, where am I going to go? I'm scared, and they're going to take my kids away from me because of what's going on." And because of her, she gave me the strength.
Mm-hmm.
Children's Aid got involved, and they tried to help, but I was too far gone. I needed to help myself.
Mm-hmm.
My kids were walking all over me, pushing me around eventually, so I had to make a decision. And it was either keep the kids and continue on mentally not right, or give them up and try to do the best, work on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was broken. I was devastated when I lost my kids. For 4 or 5 years, I was angry.
Talk to me about losing the kids. What happened when you're saying losing the kids?
Well, Children's Aid was involved.
Okay.
So they tried to help, like, help me raise them, give me courses, go to courses and stuff like that, but it was just too late.
So you lost the kids, and was that the point where you realized, I've got nothing, I've got no purpose in life, and
Yeah,
I either shape up or I'm a goner?
that's right. So I did. I got a job. Well, I had a job. Was the reason why I couldn't handle the kids either, because babysitters would call me, they're beating on each other, they were fighting all the time. So once I gave them up, I said, okay, I've got to work on myself. This is my chance. So I got a job at the bank, started off there, and I went to counseling, I went to workshops. I even, a boss or a leader of mine in the corporate world pushed me to go to school, to university. I'm like, I can't do that. I didn't even finish grade 12, and you're pushing me to go to university. She goes, you can do it. You're smart enough. So I did, part-time. I went to university. I got a certificate and moved myself up in the corporate world.
Amazing. Congratulations. I have a question for you before I say just congratulations. Yeah. I want to know about the kids. I mean, the kids grew up without a mother. And what happened when you and your husband were home? Like, how did the kids feel while all this was happening?
So there's 5 kids altogether. 2 are from ex-husband, and 3 younger ones. I was never married to the person. He just came in and basically bullied me and pushed me around and told me what to do. We never lived together. Was never married with the guy.
So why have kids with? I'm clearly going. I mean, it's kind of silly. Like, I'm going backwards, but I'm like, at what point, did you kind of come to your senses and go, what am I doing? Like, I'm having trouble having like one kid. I'm afraid that I'm gonna, make this kid take therapy. But you have your 5 children, who I'm sure are in therapy still, based on.
I have 2 that are schizophrenic. So, and it's hard because you think, is it because of what's happened, or is it genetic? And it is partly genetic on the father's side.
Right.
And it's obvious because of what I went through. He was obviously mentally ill, what he put me through, and I wasn't mentally capable of dealing with it because of all the abuse I took from as a child. So it just got worse and worse and worse. And then you wake up and you go, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you try and work on your brain mentally.
Do you ever like sit back and go, I wish I could have changed things? Or do you not really focus on like what you could have done and how you can be a better person from now?
Used to do that.
Okay.
I don't anymore.
What was the change that kind of made you rethink everything?
Counseling. Working on myself. Realizing that it's past, it's gone, and working on myself is more important.
A lot of people say that their purpose in life is their kids. And I could see that because, I know it's kind of weird. I have a dog and I care for it, and it's kind of like someone, to be there for that dog. I mean, anybody could help a dog, but for me, it's important. For me, that is the child. And in some ways, someone say, well, I have a dog to take care of.
Yes.
But kids are, a completely different level. But how do you feel as a person that kind of lost those kids and yet still has purpose in life, knowing that the kids are doing their own thing without their mom?
It wasn't easy at first. Really hard. A lot of mind games. And again, I was playing those mind games up until probably a year ago. I was really hard on myself. And then you have good friends and you talk to them and they just keep you going. They say it's not your fault. You did the best that you could with what you had. And when you have those good people that keep you in perspective of who you are and where you're going, that's what you need.
When did you ask for help the first time? When did you ever ask for help? Was there ever a
that's
point in time where you said, I can't handle this? Because when you say the kids were taken away from you, you didn't have that choice. I'm sure if it was
Well,
up
they
to
gave
you.
me a choice.
Oh,
They
they
said,
gave you a choice.
we are
Okay.
taking them or you're giving them to us.
Okay, so.
So I'm like,
Right,
oh,
right.
well, okay, I
Right,
guess,
Right.
Yeah. So I backed in a corner. Again, bullied.
I want to know a little bit about you, the person, how you've developed to become the person that you are today. Because by the sound of things, it seems like, we talked a little bit beforehand, and you mentioned, this the old me probably would have not been on this type of show. I have this fear of men.
Yeah.
And here you are talking to me. I hope I'm not that threatening, right? But there's something that made you want to become stronger. And a lot of it is overcoming fear from my understanding. Like, and sometimes the fear is having to deal with our own problems. You know, that is the fear that we all have. It's not necessarily little things here and there. It's ourselves that we fear ourselves.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide, you know what, I need to overcome these fears and live my life the way I should and not the way others see it as?
Probably when I left my ex-husband 2 years ago, and then I left my job.
So he was still around?
No, this is another
This is a different
husband.
one. Okay,
This is a different one. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, abusive, verbally abusive.
Right.
I put up with it, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Okay. So you're fresh. Like you're
Yeah.
saying 2 years you've just been this strong woman who's coming out and talking about your problem. Did you not have fears of like being judged about your issues?
Absolutely.
I mean, people could sit there and go, what kind of an awful mother are you, or person, or wife?
Yeah.
And you're probably pointing fingers at everybody else, but you have to look at yourself. Like, what gave you the strength to come out and take that responsibility and at the same time be a better person because of it?
I wanted it. I wanted to be that better person. I wanted to show other people that no matter what happens in your life, you can get through it. You can. And maybe not alone, but if you have good people, they'll help you get through those times.
So those people that you're talking about, were they your close friends? Were they counselors? Who were those people that came out to you?
Along the way, I had counselors. I have one friend that's already almost 19 years a friend. Another couple about 15 years. So I have a very small group of friends. I don't have a lot, and I like to keep it that way. I lost track of.
No, I wanted to know basically at what point, you know, did you call out for help? Because there's a lot of friends, you know, at least in my life and a lot of people that I know's life, that they won't even know that there's a problem. But in this case, they clearly knew, your friends clearly knew there were issues, right? I mean, you don't just leave 2 husbands, you don't just leave 5 kids.
Yeah.
So at what point did you come out and say, or somebody came to you and said, look, you have to become a strong person, you have to get out of it, you have to...
I think I wanted it myself because I couldn't deal with it anymore. I just had enough of being abused and pushed around. So 20-some years ago, I started on my journey of where I'm at today. And along the way, I continued to take the abuse, but yet I was still working. So some abuse I wouldn't take, but the others I would.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I was working at getting stronger on myself, still putting up with things, but yet not growing through it.
Okay.
Right? And the last straw was like 2 years ago, July.
You said you were very hard on yourself.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I think any person would be hard on themselves after going through some of this. Tell me a little bit about what type of things would you do to yourself? Like, did you contemplate maybe suicide?
Years ago, yeah. A few
Okay.
times I've attempted suicide years ago.
Attempted.
Yeah. Cutting or pills. Yeah, done that. And something gave me the strength to get out of it and not do that. And I would never go back and do something like that.
Right.
I'm very strong now.
How? How did it all of a sudden come? You know, usually people find it in the church. People find it, you know, if a friend has gone through something that helped them, right? What made you want to change 2 years ago?
I think well, actually, at work, 3 years ago, I was being bullied at work. And then I went to the doctor for routine tests, and they found a mass on my liver. So now I'm sitting there going, oh. So they took me off work. The oncologist took me off work for 6 months. She says, you're not working. Because of my job, being bullied 24/7, I manage buildings for a living. My ex-husband was giving me a hard time. We were drinking. Nothing was going good. And I said, you know what? Life is too short. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm working on me. I'm going to get healthy, turn myself around. If I have to leave everybody to do it, I'm going to do it. Because my mental health is more important than anything in this world right now. And once I made that decision, things changed for me.
to make the decision is, I mean, the reason I'm asking is because I've gone through something. I know a lot of people that are going through something, and it's never just like one thing that made them want to change, right? There were all these things that kind of piled up and piled up and
Yes.
piled up. I mean, yeah, there was the last straw. So what was that last straw for you? Like, was it
The health,
The health.
and the husband, and the job, or they were all three together.
so you just like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to work here anymore. Goodbye to you, and it's all about me.
It all came like when I found out that they cleared me with the cancer. I went back to work. So my husband had 3 different surgeries in 3 years. I was there for him.
Mhm.
When it came to me to have a procedure, and I asked him, he said, "Oh, I'm too busy." I was like, "What are you talking about? You're
Yeah.
too busy." Hello,
Right.
I spent most of my time helping you, and now no one is here to help me
Right.
to go through my medical issues.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I went back to work. I went out, bought a brand new car, upset people,
Mhm.
did for me. So I started to, so being in from abusive background, we think in our minds and we put things together
Mhm.
and we work. No one knows what we're doing. So I did that. I knew I had to leave my husband, so I did that. I made those steps. And once I left him, then I went with my son, my oldest child. We went into business. A month later, I quit drinking.
Mhm.
A month later, he walks out of the business. Now I'm left with nothing. I lost everything, but I didn't touch a drop to drink.
Mhm.
Now I've got a wake-up call going, look at that.
Right.
I'm a really strong person. I didn't have 1 drop to drink while
Mhm.
I lost everything. So I lost the business. A few months later, I left my job because I went on vacation and I came back to whole, like, loads of emails and complaints, and I went, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't care. Done. No one's going to stress me out. My job's not going to stress me out. No one. So I left my job too. And I've been on this journey of being on my own as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
figuring things out, living on my savings, my register.
You look pretty happy.
I am.
mean, you look like somebody who kind of found, her life again.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the book. How did that come about? Did somebody approach you? Did you approach them?
I saw it on Facebook. So the publisher was on Facebook,
Mhm.
and they posted this fuck fear, and I
Mhm.
went, that's me. That's who I am. That's what I've been doing all my life, is going, I'm in the fear, but I'm fucking it as well, because I'm getting out of it every time.
Mhm.
No matter what challenge has come against me, I've gotten myself out of it.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's when I decided to contact them. And
So, what is the story about? Like, is this?
so the story is about my life, and from childhood, the process of adoption and the bullying and the parents, the teenage years, the marriage, all throughout, up until I left my ex-husband. So my entire life of what I've been through and what I've put up with,
Mhm.
10 pages.
I think it's wonderful that you're able to express yourself. You're able to share a story. I'm sure there's more than just the micro, you helping yourself. There's more of the macro of trying to help others.
Yes.
So how is your story going to benefit others who are probably going through something similar?
Because I'm a different person because of it all.
Mhm.
I'm much stronger, and I'm able to stand up for other people. I'm able to help them, and if I hear something that they're talking, I'm able to step in and say, no,
Mhm.
say it this way. Because what we say, and I've learned this over the years, is what we say comes true every time.
Mhm.
And my father taught me that too. He said, whatever you think about, I can't remember.
Put out to the universe. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
And it never dawned on me at the time
Mhm.
what it meant until the last probably 15 years when I saw, I got a book of Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
and Awaken the Giant Within.
Mhm.
When I read that book, that also kind of went, oh, okay, so that's what I gotta keep doing, focusing on what I want.
Mhm.
So I worked hard on that, and I continue to do that. If I want something, I ask for it, and it comes to me true. I wanted a book, I got my book.
So what do you do with it now? So you wrote a book. You're now helping people when, you know, in their own time.
Yeah.
Do you go out and talk about your experience in front of a large crowd? Do you?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so that is the goal.
That's a goal, yes.
So what are you doing now in terms of like helping people who are dealing with issues that are similar to yours, aside from writing information? Like, do you have friends that you talk to on a regular basis? Yes. Are there strangers that come to you who have seen the transformation?
Friends have seen the big transformation, especially my long-time friends. Short-term friends have seen a big transformation from when they met me almost 2 years ago. They've seen a huge transition. And one particular friend of mine helped me write the book because I was stuck. And she was able to sit with me and help me through and ask me questions and put herself in it. And she was like, oh my God, Michele. Right? So they give me strength and I help them. And that's what keeps me going, is helping other people, whether it's friends or strangers or people that I meet through other people. I have an impact on them. And they tell me that, and that makes me feel good.
Do you feel that you're now at peace with your life? Like, or is this going to be an ongoing thing? Because certain people, you know, sometimes they have this like, oh my God moment, where they feel like I've been doing this all wrong, and now I'm on a journey to making things better. But sometimes people feel like, you know what, I'm not going to fix any problems. I'm going to almost like start a new life for myself. So I don't need to be at peace with what I've done before. I am a new person, and I have a new opportunity to make better. Well, where do you stand? Do you stand like someone who's trying to fix the old by being a better person, or just being?
I'm just being. I accept myself for who I am.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
Probably, oh my God, I'd say 25 years.
25 years.
At least, yeah.
Do we have anything from the audience? Is anybody writing anything? Because
So Noah said a few things.
okay, can you scroll down for me so I can kind of see what's there? So right now we're going to
read it to you right
okay, you're going to read. Okay, so right now we're going to the audience just to see what people are writing.
So Noah said that she said awesome camera changes. I like it. And she said she just mentioned your name and said awesome look, dialogue, setup, time for answers, serious topics, and then she said so much better and way more professional.
Okay.
And then Jesse had a professional question.
Yeah, we love that.
It says, what do you think is the biggest deterrent for people to go to counseling when they need it? And then she put
so deterrent, so something where
yeah, and then she put stigma question mark, price / cost, and access.
So I'm guessing they
It's
want
all questions, right?
Okay,
Yes,
so why don't you ask the first question? So what is the first? So what would make one? Can you ask it one more time?
What do you think is the biggest deterrent for people to go to counseling when they need it?
Yeah. So what stops somebody from going?
Waiting list?
Waiting list. Do you think that's the?
Well, I think sometimes we stop ourselves, and I have experience in that. You don't believe you have a problem. You think you can deal with it yourself,
Right.
and really you can't. Yeah.
But you think that's what stops somebody from doing it? It's the fact, like you said, waiting list. I know there's like in Toronto, you know, we're talking
That
about.
can be a deterrent.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But either yourself or the situation you're in. You don't believe it's going to help, or you can't get out. Yeah, it's a big deterrent.
Okay. If I can answer that, I think it's more people not recognizing that they need help, or you know, talking to strangers about their problems. Like my own friends don't realize that I have a problem. How is a complete stranger? Sure, he's been doing it for many years, but I'm an individual and I'm not like anybody else. So what would he be able to know? I went through a little bit of counseling. Unfortunately, I never found it to be helpful for myself. Not to say to anybody that they shouldn't. I think it's great, but I had to deal with it differently. I do believe that counseling is something amazing, that there is a benefit to it, but at least I've given it a chance. But I think what would stop someone like myself will be being judged. You know, being judged by somebody who doesn't know me, doesn't know my story, and I think we're also. It's funny. I think in some ways we're scared of being healed. I think like at some points it's like
scary
because I have to work at it, right? It's not just going to happen.
No.
It's a process of getting there.
And am I going to like that person?
Right. No, for sure. I mean, I went through a counselor who was very aggressive
Okay.
And here I am dealing with anxiety, and this person was like pushing my buttons. Now, it's good for some people,
Yes.
but for me, I just felt like every time I would see him, I just, I should be an anger management, I should be taking a course in anger management to be able to deal with my counselor.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this is not helping me out at all.
Yeah.
But no, I do believe, like, I have a sister who's a social worker who I talk to a lot, and I trust her, so we have really good communication and a really good dialogue about things. And she's someone that I felt truly connected to, that I knew that came without any judgment.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there who don't have someone to go to.
No.
So I think that counseling is very good.
Counseling, even coaching, mentoring as well.
So you're a mentor.
I'm a mentor.
One of the things I learned about you is that you mentor people. Do you mentor people in terms of like mental health, or is it more than just that? Like
Anything that they.
anything. So
I'm here
basically,
to listen to
there you
people.
go. So you're there for them.
For them.
And guiding them and making sure that they're on the right track, because
Absolutely.
your story is so harsh in some
Yeah.
ways that by listening to you, I'm sure that they'll be able to say, hey, I can overcome this.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have?
That's it. Then Scott said, can't afford it.
Can't
Just
afford it.
now.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of people that right now are offering through OHIP counseling, and I do know it is really expensive. I remember the first time I was looking, a friend of mine who was a doctor was helping me out, and it was about $120 an hour, and they were saying
Yeah.
that's a bargain. I was like, I can't go to work, I can't get out of my bed, and now how am I going to get this $120 to go speak to someone for 45 minutes to an hour?
Right.
So, did you ever look for counseling online? Like, did you ever try to do something where...
Mine was all free where I got.
Okay.
Like I went to Catholic Family Services.
Uh-huh.
Barbara Schleifer Clinic was the first place I went to, and there was a waiting list.
Mhm.
I had to wait to get in there, but
Right.
they got me in there because of the situation I was in.
When you realized that you needed help, like, who did you go to first?
Well, Children's Day was involved, so.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
they helped me through the process.
Okay.
They fed me.
So there is something amazing about that.
There is, yeah.
That meaning, like, they noticed that there was a problem. They didn't just like, hey, let's take away her kids and or at least offer her an opportunity to get better.
Yes.
So this was how long ago? When
Over 20 years ago.
So 20 years ago is when the first time you kind of walked into this, like, help me out, but yet you're saying, but it took about 18 years for you to realize that I've been living sort of a harsh life and I need to get over this and figure out a way to live a better life. Am I right? Because you said they came in 20 years ago, but only in the last 2 years you really taken that responsibility.
Yeah, I really, I realized that I was continuing to take abuse and bullying from other people, and I was still shutting down and staying quiet, and I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to speak up and stand for myself. And when my marriage was failing and my job was like I had enough, I was like, universe, like, help me out here, get me out of this, right? So I had a lot of faith and hope, and yeah, just did it.
If you were to get up on stage in front of an audience that clearly has been suffering, what would be some words of advice that you would give them? What would be something that could really impact anyone that's listening to you? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm sure there's things you learned along the way in the last 2 years.
I'm not alone.
Okay.
We
There
are
you go.
not alone. There's always, and if you think of it this way, if someone came to you and started talking to you about their problems, would you be judgmental of them or what they're telling you?
Myself, no.
Most
Right.
people aren't. Well, most people are empathetic. There are those that are not, but
Right.
most of them are, and we could pretty well judge those, like tell who are and not. So yeah.
The one thing I learned throughout this process is, and I used the word before, the purpose. And I felt that if I didn't have any purpose, that's kind of like the end of the line for me. And sometimes you get to a point where you really feel that there's no purpose, but you have to find that purpose, because life is all about purpose, right? Like, we need to enjoy this. We're not here for, just to live. We're here to do some remarkable things.
Yes.
And if your purpose is not for yourself, then maybe it's for others. Do you feel the same way about the reasons that you're doing the book, that maybe you have a gift that now you could share with others and saying,
Yeah.
This didn't, me going through this process wasn't just because I was going through the process. Maybe I meant to help others who are going through the same thing.
I believe that.
Okay.
I believe that my life, the way I lived my life, was meant to help other people. By writing a book, I want a movie of my story too. I believe those things will happen because I put it out there. Because there's a lot of it out there, people aren't realizing it. They're not seeing it.
Right.
And we need to start speaking up about it.
So I know that in the last few years, we're getting better when it comes to speaking about our problems with Let's Talk.
Yep.
So many organizations, Mental Health Month is now, right?
Yeah.
May is Mental Health Month, October 10th is Mental Health Month Day. So there's quite a bit of, we're able to talk about it. But are we actually dealing with the problems? Like, do you feel that we're actually out there helping people as opposed to just bringing it out to the light?
I don't think we're doing enough.
Okay.
We need to start with our youth,
Mm-hmm.
if anything. Educate, because there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with having anxiety or not being able to get out of bed in the morning or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. Once we stop being afraid of it,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to be afraid of. It's our health, it's our mental health. If we're okay up here, then we're okay outside.
Right. But why is it that we look at physical health? We look at someone who's, let's just say, overweight. We clearly could see this person is going to have diabetes possibly soon.
Yes.
They need to take care of themselves. But we're okay to say that. We're okay to have those conversations. But when it comes to with mental health, maybe not today. It's getting a lot better, as I mentioned, but there's still those stigmas that are out there. I know that every time I bring the subject up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm risking my career, I'm risking a lot of things, but in reality, I know that almost everyone is going to go through something in their life.
That's right.
There was a point in time, I mentioned it to someone the other day, that before I went through, my serious depression, it was, slowly happening, but I remember being on top of a mountain in Los Angeles. I went hiking and I was breathing this fresh air. It was around December and it was beautiful out in Los Angeles. And I said, wow, everything is perfect. Everything is the way it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a week later, my whole life just turned upside down. And I was like, how could I be in a situation where I feel so amazing and yet so low? And I didn't realize that it was all about me. Like, I was not balanced. I wasn't balanced. So that's why both extremes were kind of, were playing me. So I wasn't really happy. I was just, this is how I express my emotion. And I wasn't really sad. This is how I express my emotion. And I was trying to find that balance.
Right.
But my lows were so low and my highs were so high that I didn't even know that I was sick. I just thought this was my life.
Yeah.
And at one point, like after I've gone through the process, I realized that no, that was the problem. That I had these two extremes. And in order to be balanced is by just accepting things for what they are, as opposed to always looking for, I want that high and I don't want the low.
Yeah.
I can't push the rain from raining. I have no control over it.
That's right.
It's what I choose to do. So, but the reality is that there's all these quotes. It's like learn to dance in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I don't like dancing. So you know what I mean? Like the point is about it. It's like it's easier said than done to just be able to dance through it.
It is.
And like I was going through all these meeting with motivational speakers and interviewing people and trying to learn more. And I realized it was great that I was listening to a lot of people, but I had to listen to myself. And it really came down to me knowing who I am and what I'm offering, and if I'm feeling bad about something, I should just be able to talk about it, as opposed to ignore it and say, no, it's not happening to me because I'm better off.
Right.
And by accepting it, I was able to overcome it and move forward.
Yeah.
I want to know about a little bit more about you and with the fear. So what is it that you fear now as a person? Is there anything that you fear? Is there something that you feel you have no control over, or is the word control not the proper word to use?
I go with the flow.
Okay.
I've learned to go with the flow. I don't have control of anybody but myself.
Mm-hmm.
My own life I have
Mm-hmm.
control of.
No, but I want to know about the fear.
The fear?
Yeah, the fear.
So
the fear is important to me.
Yeah, fear can play on me. Like, fear could be like, I don't want to go to an event
Mhm.
with people.
Mhm.
It's anxiety that plays with me.
So how do you overcome that? How do you overcome that fear? Because in my opinion, we can't run away from those fears.
No, we can't.
See, that's the thing. It's like when we're saying F fear, and I don't want people to misunderstand the point.
Yeah.
Because when you're saying F fear, fear will be there. It's not all of a sudden just going to change,
No.
right? It's how you deal with the fear. And sometimes by saying it's okay to be afraid, like
Yeah.
I'm afraid of this, maybe today I'm not strong enough to deal with it. Maybe in the future I will. But it's recognizing it, that it's just something that I have complete control over.
Yeah.
So how are you dealing with your fears right now? Because I'm sure you have fears.
I take care of myself. I do a lot of self-care and,
Mhm.
and talk to myself,
Mhm.
have my friends,
Mhm.
and then I push myself. Some things I push myself. I talk to myself, no, you gotta do it.
Okay.
Other times, I don't do it.
Mhm.
And it's okay not to do it.
Mhm.
I'm human. I don't have to do it. If I
Do you have
don't
an
want to.
example of something that you really pushed through? Like something where you really felt, you know what? This is not me. Like I'm really afraid, but I have to like step out of my comfort zone to be able to really get there.
Well, my job. I quit my job. That
Okay.
was huge.
Mhm.
My colleagues thought I was nuts. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
So the fear of not having money.
Yeah, the fear
The fear
was
of-
huge.
okay.
Like, what am I going to do now? Like,
Mm.
okay, live on my retirement savings, but then that's going to be gone. So
Yeah.
what do I do? So I have to get over that,
Right.
right? And you have to be in a happy place
Mhm.
and make sure you're always keeping happy and joyful and keeping that momentum up
Mhm.
and not worry about. I don't worry about it now. I used to.
Mhm.
Now I don't worry about it.
Do you have any specific triggers that along? Because I can't see. I mean, you seem like a very strong individual, but I'm sure, especially somebody that's going through something
Triggers?
similar, that there are specific triggers.
There are specific triggers.
How do you overcome the fear of those triggers? Or is that
Depending
like a
on the
different?
type of trigger, right? If
Okay.
someone's yelling at me, especially a male, if they're yelling at me, like I shut completely down. I've gotten better at it though. Now I'm able to verbally communicate to the person or to people. Sometimes I'll just walk away.
Mhm. Right.
Wherever I feel comfortable doing. It has to be for my well-being.
But when you have like these specific fears, like do you sometimes just face it? Like do you sometimes like
Just
go
go
head on?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And is like what do you feel afterwards? Like, is this something that what
It's like a relief.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a relief. I'm like, oh, I could do this.
Mhm.
Why did I put myself through that? There's no reason for that. But it's our mind again. We play with our mind.
Right. So you wrote this book, and tell me a little bit about the book, not just with your number one. Let's start with this. Maybe you could show it to people. So it's number one international bestseller.
Yeah.
There are 15 women that are writing here about their personal experiences. You're one of the 15. And talk to me about collaborating maybe with, or knowing that you're going to be in a book with 14 other individuals who are writing about their own personal stories.
It was exciting. It was learning about other people, what they went through, supporting each other. Yeah, it was a great experience. I would do it all over.
Did you ever get to meet any of the
Absolutely,
writers?
we did.
Okay.
Most of them, because some of them were in other provinces and couldn't come.
Mhm.
But most of them I did meet. We had last year we had a party, like a launch.
Was there something like you had things in common with many of them? Like were there things where was there any judgment on anyone's,
No
at the end
judgment.
we're still people, right? And someone could say, hey, listen, I would draw the line. The minute she said she gave up on her kids, I don't think I could deal with this person. No?
Actually, I had authors come to me and say, wow, what a strong person you are for what you went through.
Mhm.
And one of the authors actually interviewed me.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, like I have a hell of a story here I didn't realize. So, yeah, it was great.
There are people right now who are tuning in, and I'm sure they want to know. See, I see Samina is just getting online. By the way, Samina is one of the people that you first came out to, right? I think it was you did their show,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
you told. Was that the first time you ever told your story publicly?
Yeah,
Yeah?
actually,
Okay, there you go.
yeah.
So I want to know if there was something that you were to tell the audience, who are watching right now, about how to get that strength. Because there's probably people that are in bed watching us right now who are feeling like, you know what, my life isn't the way I want it to be, and you know, I did not go through something that you went through, and my struggles are my struggles. What would be the words of inspiration that you can tell them to get out of bed and to go out and live?
No matter what is going on in your life, you can do it. It's only there for the time being. If you want something bad enough, I know that you can do it. I did it. I mean, I still struggle sometimes.
Right.
But it's that effort that you make and that small little feat, I want to say, celebration. So celebrate every time, and knowing that it'll get better each time. It's a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't.
So there's nothing that we could possibly say to someone out there saying, get up, get out, and live your life and try to
You
become.
can't make anybody do anything. They have to realize, and that's something I learned, is if you want something bad enough and if you want the help, you need to get it yourself. You need to get up, make that phone call a friend or whoever it is. Don't worry about the judgment. I mean, it's hard to say, but there's always going to be judgment out there. And if you can get through that and believe in yourself and who you are, nothing else matters. Whatever the other person says to you, it doesn't matter. It's what's inside you.
Did you forgive anyone or yourself? Or
I forgave myself. I forgave a lot of people.
do you believe that that was a part of the transition? That if we don't forgive, then we cannot move forward? Would that be something?
Yeah, you cannot. You have to. And more importantly is yourself. I learned that I have to forgive myself more importantly than anybody else, because I'm only human and I make mistakes and I learn from those mistakes.
When you're saying you forgave, talk to me maybe about the process of forgiving, because I think it's something that I'm still there. So and there's a reason why I brought the forgiveness part. Is I take all the blame on myself whenever things go bad, even though I know there's a lot of other players. I just have my own insecurities. But I've forgiven everybody around me, and I have not forgiven myself yet. But yet if you'd ask me, why didn't I forgive myself for it? I'd be like, I don't know. I just feel like something is not right. And how did you get to that point that you, I mean, I'm sure that was the hardest thing to forgive yourself.
It is. Because like I said, up till last year, I was still being hard on myself about the kids. And I wasn't a good mother and this and that. And then you realize either through somebody else that you're talking to and a bell goes off and you go, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to forgive myself and not be so hard because everybody else taught me to be that way. I took all that abuse from everybody, so they showed me and told me how to be. Now I'm not being that way. I'm being who I am and loving me for who I am and forgiving myself. And that helped me so much because I deserve it. I deserve to be happy. And I want happiness, and I've been striving, or not striving, but driving for it, thriving for that happiness. And I realized that no matter what kind of shit I put myself in or get myself into, I can get out of it working or talking to myself and having good people, very supportive people. And that's how I got through it.
How did, first, very strong words, I mean, it's wonderful that you're able to get there. With regards to your kids, have they forgiven you? Have they, fine? I mean, this is... I'm sorry that I'm bringing up something like that.
No, it's okay. You know what? I'm at peace with it. I accept it. As myself, I went through life not liking my parents for what they put me through. So my kids have every right. The 2 children that are schizophrenic, we have some sort of a relationship, but they're special children. The other 3 children I don't have a relationship with. I don't think if I do, ever, I'm grateful and I appreciate it. If I don't, it's okay. I mean, I'm not willing to put up with the abuse that they're giving me. So I'm better off myself without them.
But would that be something that you want? Like in some ways, you went through a process. Have you ever maybe tried to reach out and go, look, I realized that I was not a good mother. I was going through something, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and maybe you need to be able to forgive for you to move forward, because clearly they're going through something themselves.
They
So
are.
they haven't reached that point of forgiving themselves or you.
No,
So they're going to be living unhappy.
that's right.
Have you ever tried to have that conversation with them?
I have. Oh
Okay,
yeah, I
and-
have. They're not ready because it's that defensive. One of them is very defensive. The other one I don't talk to because of the business, right? Of course, I want a relationship with my children. If it doesn't happen, like they have to be ready for that. I'm ready. I want them in my life, but they have to be ready
Right.
and accepting and accept who I am and who I was. That I was who I was, what I went through. I was, you know what I mean? Like
Right. Has anybody ever said to you, well, now you're going through some sort of a phase too? I mean, you went through a phase before where you hated people and you took the abuse, and now you're going through a phase where you're feeling good about things, and this will also disappear. Have you ever had maybe that fear that, no,
No.
that's good, okay.
no, I'm like full steam ahead now.
So what are you doing in terms of getting better? Like, do you go out more? Do you stop drinking, you said, which is
Yeah.
already a positive?
Yes.
I'm not sure if we said it during our conversation before then, but you said at one point you gave up drinking, and then you when you had a problem, usually you would go to alcohol, but here was a situation where you didn't drink anymore.
Yeah.
So what were the how do I say this? What were the trying to find the proper way when you kept going back to looking at your life? What is it that you are now no longer doing, like to feed your bad habits? Like, is there something that you could see that I'm no longer going back to the alcohol? I'm no longer abusing myself. I'm no longer being
Yeah.
defensive. I'm no longer making excuses.
Because
Tell
I'm
me.
happy with who I am.
So it's
And I
about
don't
acceptance
need-
of oneself.
And I don't need that crutch to get me through it. I have me to get me through it now.
You seem like a person that has a lot of strength now, and if I would have met you 2 years ago, I may have said something different.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you gain that strength? Did it just like come out of nowhere? Was it something inspirational that happened?
I think it's
There must have been something that, that little spark.
well, I've been working on it for 20 years, but then again, like when they thought I had cancer, that was the like things have to change. I know I can.
You beat it, I'm guessing. Like,
Oh yeah,
okay,
I did,
fantastic.
yeah. There was nothing.
Okay.
Eventually, I went for another MRI, and I went to the oncologist, and we're good. There's nothing
Okay,
wrong. So I'm healthy. I'm good. I've changed my diet. I've changed everything because I wanted. Like you said, we're here for a purpose. And now that I've dealt with all my shit in my life, I'm now prepared to go out there and help other people deal with theirs. I can be a good support. I know that. I do get out now. Before I was going to events and then running home and hiding. That was the anxiety. I didn't realize I had that.
Right.
And my girlfriend picked it up when we went to an event. And she noticed me shaking and all that. And I didn't pick up on it. And she goes, you have so much anxiety. I'm like, well, yeah. I said, I didn't even realize it. She goes, well, you've been through so much that you still have a little bit of that left in there's
Areas of
certain
your life.
triggers, right? Like if someone is like constantly staring at me, like you can see, like I'm an empath, so I feel people. So as soon as I enter a room, I already know.
Okay.
I already know who's got that lovingness or who's got that cold or whatever. I already feel that.
I'm glad you didn't leave when you came here. That would have been bad. Like, oh, she's feeling me out. So that's good.
Yeah. So.
Look, this was wonderful. Like, this is Mental Health Month, and there are a lot of people who are suffering in silence. As I mentioned before, a lot of people that I know have passed away. We always tend to look at how did that person die? Was it suicide? Like I know someone had liver disease. Well, that person had liver disease was drinking.
Yeah.
They were drinking because they were dealing with problems. The person who committed suicide, you know, it wasn't just, oh, there was a problem with the job or the money. There was something a lot more. And it's almost becoming a regular thing. And I feel like if they just had someone to talk to, if somebody would be able to reach out and be there for those people, then, you know, we'll be better off. And it's something that I'm learning, you know, like before I would never talk about my problems. I used to have a defense mechanism. I used to have an answer for everything. I mean, I still do. But literally an answer for everything. I didn't drive until I was 28 years old. And when people ask me, how come I didn't drive? I said, I don't need it. By saying I don't need it, I'm pushing it away. I'm not talking about, well, there's maybe something more psychological behind it. So then when they would ask me, you know, anger me, because now I have to defend myself over something I'm doing for myself. And then it became, well, you know, I have some anger management problems on the road, so I'm not going to drive. But in reality, it was so much more than that. It was this type of anxiety of thinking I'm going to die on the road. Why would I put myself in this situation? And the funny part is this was a little bit about the strength that I got when I overcame my anxiety, was I kept pushing forward. And I kept seeing myself whenever an opportunity arose where I felt I had no other option, I would work even harder and get there. So meaning, you know, I got a job in Los Angeles. I used to have a driver in Los Angeles. All of a sudden the driver is no longer my driver. I have to get my license. So, okay, I'm going to lose this job if I won't drive. So that pushed me forward. This show, you know, like I have to do this. I need to help others. So there's always been some sort of triggers where, you know, I pushed forward. Do you have any set goals of something that you want to do, like certain fears that you might still have, even though maybe you don't have any fears, but certain fears that you may have had or still have that you're trying to overcome? Is there
speaking on stage?
Speaking on stage.
Yeah, that's huge for me. I want to do that. Absolutely.
What is the fear of? I mean, you're clearly having a good conversation right now and talking about your issues. So.
Yeah, it's just a large audience right in front of you, and I got to talk about myself.
Right.
So it's a little, it's anxiety. It's that. Again, it's the judgment, but again, who cares, right? But it's your brain playing with your.
Right.
I'm playing with my brain again.
So if we can finish this off, kind of wrap it up. First off, I want to thank all the audience that was watching the show today. I want to wish everybody a good mental health month. If you need to speak to somebody, please do. You know, like if you're lacking, I'm sure there's people who are there to listen. People are a lot more open than they were back in the day. It starts with you though, right? I mean, the bottom line is if you're not going to go out there and express yourself, it's not just going to come to you. You kind of have to build that strength to at least open your mouth and talk about what you're going through, and I guarantee someone will be there. I know I will be there for you if you ever need me, and I'm sure Michele will be there for you. Anything else from the audience? Anybody has any questions or comment regarding this issue?
Samina just said that the set looks great, and she said that Michelle's amazing. And then the two of you look great. And then Scott said that you're asking great, thoughtful questions.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Today is going to be a shorter show. We're just trying to kind of get things organized here. You know, this is the first time we're doing like full green screen and the 3 cameras, and we're going to do an amazing show for all of you. The Prickly Pear Show is going to be going through some minor changes. Just for you to also know that it's no longer going to be just about the guest and some conversations. Usually we talk about things that are going on around the community, but we're going to have the Prickly Corner. And it's something that myself and Noah Grad, I'm putting on the spot now, Noah, is going to be my new partner. And there's a lot of issues that we really want to delve into. And it shouldn't just be about question and answer. It should be something that we should really dissect, you know, open it up and have the audience involved maybe afterwards in terms of really getting the message across. Because what ends up happening on these shows that I keep doing now for the last year and a half is that we end off and then we move forward. And there's never, we never follow through afterwards to find out how things actually have progressed or what is that we can, what changes we can actually make. And I feel that the show was lacking that. So, for example, with mental health, clearly that's the one thing that I am moving forward, and that's what we are dedicating an entire month for mental health. People can see that it's all green, but I would have had more green for mental health. But the purpose of the show is really to highlight important issues. There was a point in time where I used to write articles about the Middle East conflict and whatnot. Okay, I wrote an article, it went out, and people read it, and it's over. And it's like, well, what happened from it? Like, how did we move forward? Did we fix anything? And then I was reading some of my articles last month that I wrote maybe 15 years ago, and the same problems still occur. So it basically told me that I need to make some sort of change, because it can't be that it remains the same. We're not going to advance. And the same way that you've taken responsibility over your life, and not just talking about it, but actually doing something about it, I'm hoping that the show will have that impact. So thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it on behalf of myself, Ron, Michele, Anthony. Please tune in for every Sunday to the Prickly Pear Show. Next week we're going to be doing it out of my cottage. We're going to be doing, it's not going to be a green screen. I'm taking a little vacation, going to a cottage, maybe talking a little bit about nature and animals and whatnot. There are times where we want to do this, have more of a light show than just very, very controversial issues. If anybody has any ideas or anything you want to bring up to the show, please let us know. Contact us at The Prickly Pear Show. Like us, subscribe. Within a month, we're also going to be on YouTube, we're going to be on Facebook, and everything is going to be off of our website for people to ask us questions, because before we go on, I'd like for people to know what the theme is going to be. So, to all of you out there, is there something else you want to maybe say hi to someone? Or
hi everyone.
Thank you very much. If your kids are watching, it's time maybe to forgive and to move forward, and it will probably benefit you too, right? Because the bottom line, it's there's a saying, right? The truth shall set you free.
That's right.
Well, in this reality, forgiveness will set you free. So again, on behalf of all three of us, have yourself an amazing Sunday. Have a great week and great mental health.
Yes.
Take care.